metal when I'm getting to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by Denim. As a business owner myself, I personally know the importance of financial stability and preserving cash flow to help navigate through any freight market. With Denim's comprehensive service offering, you now have an all-in-one financial partner whose platform includes factoring, payments, freight audit, document collection management, and analytics, which help keep your business financially healthy and increase your team's time to focus on revenue-producing activities. You can also take advantage of Denim's free credit check, which they perform on all of your customers. And Denim will proactively reach out to you if they spot any signs of credit deterioration. Finally, Denim always pays your carriers first. As a broker, this is imperative to preserving your credit score in the market, which ultimately helps you become a broker of choice to your carrier partners. Are you ready to learn more? Visit denim.com to schedule a demo today. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys really live today with 3 guests at SPI's Rendezvous Agent event up here in Vancouver, BC. Thank you guys for taking the time. The rest, you guys know the rest of the intro here, guys. We're just going to jump right in on this one. I've never done a show with 3 live guests before at all, so you guys are all my guinea pigs out here today. So Cristine, Nav, Shiv, thank you guys so much for joining. These guys are, in my opinion, are the unsung heroes of the operations at SPI Logistics. As an agent who's there personally moving freight day in and day out, you know, inevitably we're faced with these situations that come up that, you know, you need that guidance. I mean, I just went through a situation this week where, you know, I've been doing this job for 15 years and I've never experienced this before. And having the support behind the scenes from you guys to be able to just get our customer taken care of and get it resolved as soon as possible, that to me is like where the truest of true values come in, having my book of business and my agency with SPI. And it's like, you know, because it's always easy to sit back and operate when things are going good, right? And like in your mindset, when things are going good, you think, oh, this is perfect. It's always going to be this way until it's not, right? And then ultimately you're going to be faced with a situation where it's like, you need that guidance, but you know, you might need those resources as well to be able to help navigate through that. So Nav, you got the mic. I'm going to start with you. Why don't you introduce yourself first before we go in any further?
Of course. So my name is Navneet, or Nav, easier to I'm the manager of people and culture at SPI, and in terms of like, you know, working with the agents, I onboard agents, I help them, you know, set up like Revenova, like just in general, like all of their setups done by me, and I'm kind of like the first point of contact for them, so I try to like make a really good impression, and yeah, then I just, you know, parcel it all up, move it to the client care for them to train the agents and the sub reps.
Okay. Shiv.
Hi, my name is, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. My name is Shivrani Narayan, and I'm the operations manager. So I would deal with basically our carrier compliance, cargo claims, many other things, but that is kind of what Chris is talking about that we deal with is, you know, onboarding carriers, along with Cristine, who's client care, who does the training. but that's the part that I kind of assist with, along with any distress load situations that you had this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Cristine.
Hi, my name is Christine, and I am the Client Services Manager at SPI. So that entails overseeing the support team when is the first port of contact once an agent's been onboarded. So we work with the agents to get them up and running using the TMS software, do the training. If there's any issues that they might arise, regardless if it's customer, carrier, software, programming, they would be calling us. And we're very hands-on. So it's not like, oh, well, you've onboarded with us, you've had your 3 hours of training, we don't want to hear from you again. We are hands-on. We are the main point of contact. Dial 6, you're going to get everybody on the team. There's 10 of us, and each one of them is integral and trained exactly the same way to handle situations. And it's always a collaborative way of handling things, and we're there to support the agents to make their life a lot easier. We want them to book the freight. That's their job, and our job is to make their job easier.
Yeah, and I can attest to how great all of you guys are at your jobs. And I'm not just saying this because you guys are sitting in front of me. It's, when we're in the thick of things out there trying to execute and, putting the work in to just build a sustainable book of business is hard enough. But then executing on that business is another a beast essentially that comes along with it. And, I can personally attest to the amount of times that we have called in. And I mean, it is damn near every hour of the day but there's no lack in response, right? Like there is almost an immediate response, or it's like worst case scenario, it's a text message because it is after hours and, you guys do have lives and, it's stuff like that, but it's like that the instant response that comes along with it. Right. And it's not just like a facade out there, because it's easy to market a lot of what you guys are describing. And you're like, hey, we do this, we do that, until push comes to shove, and there's times to come along with it. So Christine, from your perspective out there, what is one thing that maybe an incoming agent or an existing agent should maybe be better prepared for like when they're out there actually operating in their own business as an agent?
The one thing that I would think that what we strongly stress is, don't wait. If you're having a problem, don't automatically assume it's something you're doing wrong. So I always say it's a 10-minute rule. If you can't figure something out in 10 minutes, call head office so we can assist you. Don't assume that, I can't do this or I can't find, because a lot of times people don't want to ask for help. Mm-hmm. And that's what, as a support team, we're here to help you. And chances are at least one other person in the network has gone through the same issue you're going through or having the same problem or experience. And if you don't know something, we have a huge network of agents where we can pull that information from. So we also say, oh, I'm a truckload guy. That's all I do is truckload. Oh, well, I got a customer that has LTL or hazmat or has an ocean freight. Oh, I can't do that. Actually, you can call SPI head office. We can connect the dots. We can, help you out, get that load moved for your customers so you don't have to say no. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are afraid to step into that next realm. It's not my comfort zone. I don't want to do ocean or I don't want to do LTL because I've only ever had a negative experience. Well, that's because you didn't have the support and the availability for training and a walkthrough and to help you grow your business. That's what we're here for. Ask us the questions. If we don't know, we'll say, that's a great question. Let me get back to you. And we will find the right person to connect the dots for you to make you a better salesperson and to grow your business.
I'm laughing because that's me. I'm that guy who's like, I'm a truckload guy. I don't do LTL. I don't do ocean. And, you're very right. It's because I had a lot of bad experiences in the past with other modes. And it wasn't necessarily the organization I was working for at the time. It was the provider of said services who were making it so challenging out there to do what we needed to do as a broker, right? Like I can't have the goal line moving when you quote me your price that all of a sudden it's hey, this is the price now until we actually decide what we really want to charge you. So it makes it really hard to go out there and, convince your customer like, hey, I know I told you it was $100. Now it's actually $700 because so it's those situations like that though, where I don't want to say it's a lack of my confidence in my abilities to do it. But for me, it's more of kind of like just staying in a singular focus right now while we're building up. And it's like, hey, once we get more established business and a more established book of business with our customers like I say, I'm going to sell myself on one thing. If they come to me with other modes, I'm not going to turn it away, right? At the end of the day, but it is like everything you're describing right there is 100% that. And Nav, to her point there, when you're onboarding agents, how much of that comes up in the beginning stages? Like, hey, I've never felt supported behind the scenes, or like anytime I've come, with it, it's all smoke and mirrors.
Right. So we've had agents who have, previously said the companies they were with, they didn't find that support. And we've had like, just I've heard from agents come up to me or just like call me and they say, oh, hey, like you guys pick up your phone call, like you pick up your calls within like, you know, 5 minutes, or like you answer emails within 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That's like our max. Right. So I think that's very important, is that when they're looking for that help, they get that help right away, because some situations require that emergency. And so, yeah, like agents have come up to me and said they didn't, I think like they lacked that training from the previous companies, from the companies they were with, and they just love SPI for how we train them and how like we follow up with questions if they have any questions. Or now with our SPI Academy as well, we have everything. Like we have the videos for them to refer back to, and if they have any questions, they can like obviously just come up to us and just ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Shiv, this is a perfect lead in with you and everything you're dealing with in claims. How much are you finding yourselves at times unwinding bad habits that were established at other organizations? Because, I come, like, for me, it's like when it comes down to an insurance claim, damages or anything like that, first thing that comes to my mind, the first way I was trained, take photos, get the name of the person who's telling you. Do that, document, have them write it on the bill of lading, what is actually going on.
Mhm.
And then as a broker, try and get on the phone with the receiver or whomever is claiming that there's damages right away and just have a conversation, because it's like, I want to remove the driver from that situation outside of them taking photos, because I want to hear it directly from them. And I say that because I've heard the sky is falling from one direction, and then you actually talk to the people, they're like, nah, man, we're just like, we're good.
Yeah.
But, so it's like, how much do you find yourself kind of unwinding those bad habits?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of those. And
Yeah.
actually, funny enough, one of the things I just heard from an agent yesterday, they were talking about how at the previous organization, they didn't get any assistance when it came to claims.
Yeah.
So they had to be hands-on. And now when they're here, they tell like their staff members, they're like, back off. Claims team has got it.
Yeah.
Like, don't get involved, because once they get involved, they get heated, they start getting into arguments with the driver, and then there's things that are being said in emails that can be used against you for a claim declination, things such as that. And so like he was talking about, just for example, from his previous claims team and support team, they were just like, nope, we have all the support here, just back off. If they need anything, they'll come to us. But they're just like, here you go, claims team, handle it. And then that's not just the claims, but also distress load situations. That's when, things are stuck in transit and a driver's holding a load hostage, or it's a potentially stolen load. Same situation.
Yeah.
Like, we have, unfortunately, dispatchers getting heated in the moment, going back to back in emails, saying, I'm going to deduct this much from you. And we're like, don't say anything.
Yeah. It's, no, and that's, in my experience, it's like, unfortunately, I've had a lot of crap happen in my career, right? And it's one of those things that, maybe it's because I'm just older now and I'm not a young kid anymore, but I'm like, all right, we got to get to a resolution, because arguing, bickering back and forth has never solved anything in my career. But it's right, and that was one of those escalation points that we were trained on early on is hey, sometimes you just back away, let somebody else come in and just have a conversation. It's amazing what can get resolved when there's just a different voice on the phone. And it's not, and I want more people to realize this, it's not a knock on your abilities, or it's not a disability of you and how you can operate in that moment. Sometimes it's just the person hates the sound of your voice, and it does not matter what you say or do in that moment, they are not going to work with you, right? Exactly. So it's like, once you hit that inevitable impasse, it's like, back away, let somebody else come in, because you got to think long-term damages. Is there something you're going to do or say in that moment where that person is just going to be like, go rogue? And then all of a sudden we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then like you said, things are in writing. hey, their insurance companies be like, you actually told them to do this. And then are you going to fight that? And then do you have hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay for that out of pocket? And it's like, it might sound like an extreme situation that I just described, but it's not. Shit happens, and it gets, and then when those egos start to come in, that's when stuff gets out of hand. And, Cristine, then is it, on the, the client services side of things, how much is it, like, I don't want to say on you, but there's no, I can't think of the right way to describe it, of like making sure everybody knows, like, hey, come to us with these problems. Like, please, we are here to actually help you. Do not take this upon yourself. And then, or even if you do want to handle it, come to us for some guidance and we can help you walk through this.
Exactly. We do brief people on that when they first come in. But as you know, when people get into a heated situation like that, it's like, well, no. I take this, it's a personal attack on my ability to be able to do my job, or, they called my mother out, things like that.
I've heard a lot.
And it happens quite often. So with client care, we do get a lot of complaints from carriers who are, I talked to agent X and they were unprofessional. And in some cases, it's like, I'm going to send you the actual phone recording of our conversation. And that is happening more and more.
Yeah.
And depending on what country you're in, technically they're supposed to tell you that they're recording the conversation. A lot of time they don't.
Yeah.
So we're now coaching the agents is be mindful that when you're on the phone, the person that you're talking to could be recording the conversation. Yeah. And that could really get you in a lot of hot water. So it's a lot when those calls come in, then we become the mediators between the agent and the carrier. We'll tell the agent, hey, or we'll see an email come in that we've been CC'd on because they want us to know what's happening.
Yeah.
And we go back and say, please stop from, do not respond any further. We will have somebody on the team contact the carrier and see if we can't find a resolution, especially if the load is still in transit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to deliver because you said X, Y, and Z, and I want to get my $3,000 before I'm going to drop your load, or I'm going to dump it on the side. And of course, then the agent's like, well, if you do that, then I'm going to lose this. So I'm going to report you to Carrier Form 1. We're going to put you on DNU. And it just kind of gets really blown out of proportion. And at the end of the day, the guy that's got the load is trying to make money, feed his family.
Yeah.
It's his livelihood. And you on the other side, it's your livelihood, but you're both at opposite ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So really just being heard and listening to what the pains are, and maybe the guy had a bad day. He didn't get a great sleep. He had to replace 4 tires on the truck. He doesn't have that money.
Yeah.
He really needs this load. And you call and say, I need you to, your appointment's been shifted till 8 p.m. And he's got to bump his next load. When we do things like that, a lot of times it's like, oh yeah, and the customer says I need this. Oh yeah, we can do that. Not checking with the driver and how is that going to impact his next load or his next 3 loads.
Yeah.
So being mindful that yes, it's a business, but the person you're talking to on the other end of the phone is another human being, and it's their job, and they're trying to do as much as they can, hopefully in a very respectful manner, for your customer's product, because they know if they get negative reviews, nobody's going to use them. And that's what happens. We will post a load on a report on Carrier Form 1, and we'll get a carrier, you need to take your report down. Well, we have it in writing in the emails, and so in some cases we'll say, yeah, we can do that. Or in other cases, it's like, your driver cussed out the shipper,
Mm-hmm.
and that your driver is a reflection on SPI. As a broker, we are only as good as the guys we hire.
Yeah.
And if the guys that are representing SPI at the end of the day, and that's including agents, you're representing SPI, and if your conduct on the phone leads to a very nasty conversation with client care in regards to your behavior, that's not only a reflection of yourself as well as SPI. And we never ever want to see that or hear, I'm never going to work with SPI again because of this person.
Yeah.
And so that's, all those things are important, but that just starts from one person having a bad day. And what do you mean you can't deliver my load by noon?
Yeah.
And then the person, just blows up, and then the driver gets upset and they get upset, and it just happens like a ping pong. And then next thing you know, there's this whole situation, and, SPI has been blacklisted, the driver doesn't want to do anything. And so having to really backtrack on that, and, carriers are our clients too. It's not just a customer. Everybody is important. We're all a team together, including the guys you hire.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And it is one of those things, you brought up about how, we all represent SPI at the end of the day. And, you need to be aware of that, because it's like, yes, it might be your relationship with the customer and your relationship with the carrier, but at the end of the day, SPI is facilitating this move. Yep. SPI is facilitating a lot of this stuff. It's SPI's credit rating that's on the hook. It's SPI's insurance that is on the hook for a lot of this stuff that comes along with it. And, Nav, when you're recruiting agents and when you're talking to them, how are you kind of weeding out a lot of that from getting up? Because I know, like you guys just don't take anybody, right? Like,
Right.
and I think like that's like the biggest facade out there with, the agent model is like a very marketable thing out there in the transportation industry now. And a lot of people want to offer it, but like you guys do a lot more due diligence on people. You guys have you guys are out there meeting with these agents in person. You guys go further than phone call. Hey, can you what's your book of business? Yeah, man, we'll sign you up right now. Right. So it's like, are you trying to spot that maybe behavior or tendencies in the onboarding phase that, Cristine's describing here to try and, I'm not saying remove the hotheads because everybody has a moment or two, but like what I've come to kind of realize in my career, there's a pattern with a lot of these people who go off the hinges on stuff. And I think like they start to identify themselves earlier than later.
So we do have Bob Ripple. He actually does select agents, and we also have Mike Mikulik. The VP of sales.
Oh yeah.
He also looks over like the books of business, and when I'm onboarding, I'll give them a call, and just like that first conversation with them, you can just tell like how the person is, like how their temperament is, or what like their personality is like. And for at least the first 3 months, we like when we onboard an agent, we are careful. We are like doing our due diligence and making sure that there is enough activity. And if there's not enough activity, we do end up like sending them an email saying, hey, like just giving them a chance to explain like why there's that lack of activity and why is there no like business going on. And if we don't get a response, then we do actually end up offboarding them if they're not, because again, like Cristine mentioned, they do represent SPI, and we want them to, you don't want anything, like we want a good representation of SPI. So
no, for sure. And I mean, and then especially in today's day and age with, the rise in scamming and everything else, like you don't need somebody going rogue, right? Like you don't, and that would be my biggest fear in, like an agent model style situation. I know that you guys have been around obviously 45 plus years now. So like you've probably seen a lot. I mean, especially Cristine, you have, because you've been here for 20 years, right? But it's one of those things where there's, that would be my big fear with a lot of this is a couple of rogue agents who go out there who, because a lot of people are great salesmen on the phone, right? And I see this too with, potential guests on the show. People can type really well, but then you get them talking and you're like, what? So it's like, that's why I always do those pre-call screenings with a lot of the people if I've never met them before. But that's those things. It's like, I want to stop that because no matter what, like we're a direct representation. But like for me, from a brand perspective, that follows you everywhere. And again, this might just be because I've been doing this for a long time now, and I look at it a lot differently, but I want to make it as easy as possible for people to work with me and my organization as a whole. I don't want, like, we're quick with our responses. I want as seamless as possible because that's just not the case that's out there. I think like it stands out in a lot more now when you're like, wait, what's the catch, right? Because I feel like that's the thing that eventually people get to. They're like, wait, it can't be this good. You know what I mean? But it's like, I'm going to sit here and say, like, as an agent with SPI, like, I'm still shocked to this day how easy it is to work with you guys, like on literally everything. And it's one of those situations where when it comes down to client services, back office, credit, all of that stuff, like I was telling you, Shiv, before we started the show today, we're, as a 2-person operation, because it's just me and Angelo, my business partner now, we're able to pack a punch of a couple $100 million organization out there in the market. Where else can you do that, right? Like, and that to me is, when it comes to actually starting a company, I've bootstrapped a couple of them now. It's not easy, right? Like, but I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but this is about as easy as it can get, where you can go out there and you don't have to think, all right, do I have to sell my vehicle just to be able to onboard this shipper, to be able to afford to move this freight? And, there's a lot of situations that come about like that. No, yeah, go ahead.
No, did you have a question?
Oh, no. I thought you were going to say something there. I misread the whole situation there, Shiv. You threw off my flow.
I'm so sorry.
But no, it's all good. So Shiv, what are you guys doing now with a lot of the checks and balances that come with onboarding carriers and working with carriers that we've worked with, but they've had that identity theft. And I want the carriers who watch this show to hear this from you about the checks and balances that are in place, that, hey, if you've had your identity stolen, but you are legitimate, like there are ways for you to continue to work and get frayed.
I think for us, we do check every single time. It's not something that we're gonna, just go ahead and allow to be just dispatched. Like, unfortunately, if you do have that, there is going to be a block in place.
Yeah.
But the main thing would be actually emailing and a phone call from the actual verified numbers on FMCSA, verified email on FMCSA. We need that confirmation from those two things. That's the most that we can do, right? We need the verification that, hey, this is the email address and this is where it's coming from. We're not going to take it from a Gmail and all of those things. Like, we're not going to accept or send out information to those things or to those, fraudulent emails. But they can still work with us. They just have to cooperate and, send us the confirmation from the verified accounts and phone numbers. That's all it is. It's nothing for those carriers that you're talking about. It's nothing. Yeah.
And that to me is I want more of the carriers who listen to this show and the drivers who listen to this show who, a lot of them feel like their options are extremely limited right now out there in the market, right? They feel like the way things are, there's now, like with the fraud software and everything that's out there, they feel like it's another thing that's working against them to get business. And 99% of the carriers that I've booked and worked with in my career are what you said earlier, Cristine. They just want to provide for their family. They want a fair shot out there. They hate the hurdles that they have to continuously jump through. And then it's like this whole, the double brokering and everything that comes. That's just another angle now, because to me, it's like, those are the real victims that are out there. It's the people who are actually hauling the freight, who are thinking they're going to get this payday that never comes through in those moments, right? And it's one of those things that I want them to know, that there are brokers and organizations that are out there that are actively working for the carrier community, that it's like, hey, if you have a knock for whatever reason, like, we are taking additional steps to ensure that we can continue to work with you.
One of those additional steps is we will go a next step, and it's like, okay, well, you don't have a verified user. I just got a new cell phone. I dropped mine, and it broke, or I had to get a new number because of, X, Y, or Z. We will actually go the next step and say, okay, we really would like to work with you. You need to send us a copy of your cab card.
Yeah.
And then what we do is we take that cab card, make sure that the name on the cab card matches the carrier that we've hired, which in some cases that is supposed to be in the vehicle at all times. So it's very highly unlikely that it's been stolen or copied. And then we actually double check the VIN number on that to make sure your insurance is the same. And we've actually gone a next step sometimes, and we'll call the insurance provider and say, we know it's a Privacy Act thing, so you can't tell us. But if I said, does, Bob Smith, is he the primary number on there? And is his number this number? And they will say yes or no.
Yeah.
So we will go that extra step. We don't want to say no to really anybody. We know you're trying to make a living, and we want to help you with that. But one of the things I wanted to mention is we are now not just having double brokered loads and stolen identities for carriers. We are having customer identities being stolen. And that's something that is happening more and more in the industry that people are not talking about.
Yeah.
Where somebody is fictitiously signing a credit application for a customer, and they're moving these freight, and then our accounts receivable calls and says, hey, you're past due X amount of dollars for these loads. And they're like, we don't have SPI set up as a vendor. We've never hired you for this.
Oh, wow.
And so previously in the industry, this was unheard of.
Yeah.
You never heard of a customer. So now, unfortunately, carriers have to worry about it. But now sales guys and agents have to worry about, is this really the person I'm talking to on the phone is really an actual customer that I've seen?
Yeah.
So with the world of technology, you can forge just about anything. And I can, have my best friend, sister's cousin, husband pretend to be somebody. So this industry, they're getting really, really good at being fraudulent. And so doing your due diligence all the way around. So it's harder for drivers, yes, and it's harder for carriers too. But at the end of the day, you want to protect your business, and it should be a plus that, hey, they really want to know that it's me,
Yeah.
And we've had people say, this is a pain in the ass, and, I'm getting really tired of this, but Now that you've explained it, thank you for taking the time to make sure I am who I say I am, because you're actually looking out for me.
Correct.
And having this conversation with Shivrani or the carrier setup team makes me really understand why people do this.
Yeah.
Not just you have to do this to get onboarded and not explain it. They don't know that, the FMCSA was hacked last year and that, over,
What? No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. So they don't understand why all of a sudden, hey, last year before I had no problems.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I got to jump through this hoop. I got to get my driver's license. You want me to get ELDs connected. Why do you want to know where my truck is at all times? It's none of your business. Well, actually, if I'm putting my freight on your truck, I really want to know that your freight is on the truck, not as we had parked at a casino for 4 days with the reefer running when they finally found it. That was before ELDs.
I know.
Yeah. So
it's, to me, it's one of those situations where, to touch on what you said about the customer identity fraud, I'm going to make it really easy for all of you brokers out there. No customer is reaching out to you to move their freight for you if you've never reached out to them. All right. That is the biggest. I know it sounds awesome, but that is the biggest red flag. If it's somebody who you've never talked to that hits you up to want to move your freight and everything. Come on, you guys. Let's be honest. If you've ever cold called, that's not happening. All right. Because everybody's good. But that is going to be it for today, you guys. That flew by as I knew it was going to, because you guys are phenomenal. How does anybody reach out to you guys to find out more about what SPI has going on?
Well, they can reach out through Bob, or they can call the office direct, 866-744-7774, extension 6, and you will get anybody on the client care team. And you can speak to myself, Shivrani, Nav, the team, and we can transfer you from there. And yeah, we're absolutely got questions. Give us a call.
They answered at 6:05 a.m. Pacific time this morning, just from experience, because I called in this morning at 6:05 a.m. and they picked up right away. All right. So there's the verifiable proof that you guys need that they are the real deal out there. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard, which I know you did, and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. If you're feeling really ambitious after this one and you haven't ranked the show yet, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because that's how your network will see value. Because if you saw value, chances are they're going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.